Welcome to the tower. Today, we are initiating a full-scale radar grid simulation for a past paper question that literally strikes fear into the hearts of candidates everywhere. I'm talking about the Cambridge Arabic Language 8680 Passage 1 Comprehension. Specifically, we are locking our radars onto those incredibly elusive 5 marks awarded for quality of language. Now, I want you to think of me as your elite exam tower director, and think of this specific exam question as an incoming heavy aircraft. It's massive, it's intimidating, and it is coming in fast. Our singular objective today is to guide your response to a completely safe, full-mark touchdown, even under the most extreme, fuel-burning exam time pressure. Whether you're navigating the airspace of IGCSE or dealing with the high-altitude winds of A-levels, you are about to learn exactly how to manage your stress and prioritize those high-yield marks. So strap into your console, check your headset, and buckle up. We are initializing the radar grid right now. Right out of the gate, we're kicking things off with a massive amber warning light flashing on our screens straight from the senior examiners themselves. They've stated that this is one of the most misunderstood areas where students are just hemorrhaging easy marks. To understand why this keeps happening, I want to introduce you to two very common operators in our control tower, Router Alex and Router Sam. Now, Router Alex is the kind of candidate who is incredibly thorough, but gets totally bogged down in minor, irrelevant details. Alex tries to rewrite the entire source text, effectively creating an infinite holding pattern in the sky. The plane just keeps circling and circling, burning precious exam time fuel, but never actually landing on the 5 marks. On the flip side of the room, we have Router Sam. Now, Sam completely panics when they look at the clock. Sam clears arguments for landing way too fast. We're talking about throwing down messy bullet points with extremely poor syntax and completely ignoring the structural safety regulations of proper Arabic grammar. You see, Alex runs out of fuel and Sam crashes the plane. Both approaches are absolute disasters for your score. Today, we are going to completely retrain both of these approaches. So looking at Alex and Sam, it begs a really fundamental question. Why do so many incredibly smart students do all the heavy lifting of interpreting these complex Arabic passages, but then completely stumble when it comes to executing these 5 crucial quality marks? Well, listen, the source text in Arabic is undeniably complex, but here's what the principal examiner reports reveal from the black box data. It's cognitive overload. The sheer mental strain of translating and comprehending the text is like having every alarm on your dashboard blaring at once. Because of that noise, students abandon their standard flight protocols. They completely abandon proper Arabic sentence structure because they're hyper-focused on the translation aspect. They successfully do the hardest part, understanding the passage, but they forget a critical reality. Those quality of language marks are not just a nice little bonus if you have time left over. They are a rigorously assessed, heavily scrutinized structural component of the exam. Router Sam is sitting there thinking these marks magically appear just by writing faster, and Router Alex thinks they are awarded for writing the longest essay humanly possible. They're both fundamentally misreading the radar. To completely demystify this grading rubric, we are going to follow this exact flight plan today. Number 1, the 5-mark mystery. Number 2, cracking the core concepts. Number 3, the method mark strategy. Number 4, top 3 examiner warnings. And finally, number 5, the perfect answer formula. Let's move right into section 1, the 5-mark mystery. We need to look closely at the underlying theoretical architecture of this exam. When you are mapping out your approach vector, the foundation of your answer absolutely must rest on these 3 solid pillars. Think of these as your non-negotiable flight coordinates. First, precise definitions. Second, causal relationships. And third, integration with other syllabus areas. Let's break that down. Instead of just vaguely listing vocabulary words you recognized, you need to deliver precise surgical definitions. Next, you have to build causal relationships. This is the thrust of your engine. Why did the author choose that specific Arabic phrase over another? What is the intended psychological or emotional effect on the reader? Cause and effect. Without it, you're just floating. And finally, integration. You have to prove to the examiner sitting in the tower that you understand how the Arabic language functions as a complete, interconnected system, not just a bunch of isolated sentences thrown together. And here is a massive, top-secret intel drop straight from the examiner's grading room. Pay close attention to this. Simply referencing cross-topic connections is statistically proven to elevate your score significantly. When you do this, it is literally like pinging a special high-priority transponder code directly to the examiner. When you can take a theme from Passage 1 and intelligently connect it to broader syllabus themes or overarching structural language rules that you studied throughout the year, the examiner's eyes light up. They instantly recognize that they are dealing with a candidate operating at a significantly higher altitude. You are no longer just a student translating a text, you are an analyst deconstructing a piece of literature. That exact mindset shift is how you secure those top-tier quality marks. Advancing to Section 2, Cracking the Core Concepts. Let's look at the actual procedural framework you are required to use. You have to understand that the visual presentation of your information isn't just a polite suggestion from Cambridge. You must follow these strict conventions to signal that you possess professional, methodical skills. Proper headings, the correct use of formal Arabic terminology, appropriate formatting, and clear annotations. Think of these conventions as the lights on the landing strip. If a candidate writes a genuinely brilliant, deeply analytical point but completely buries it inside a massive, chaotic, unformatted block of text without a single paragraph break or recognizable linguistic term, that is a massive structural safety violation. You have to remember examiner fatigue. These examiners have been sitting in their grading towers for hours, staring at hundreds of papers. If you don't use the correct terminology and clear formats, you are essentially forcing the examiner to land a plane in thick fog without radar. Don't make them search for your brilliance. Broadcast your analysis clearly with strict formatting. Let's transition to Section 3, the method mark strategy. This is the procedural flow where you actually earn marks just for your process. Before we clear this response for final touchdown, I need to initiate a quick tower transmission check. Pause what you were doing, make sure your transponder is fully updated right now by subscribing to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams and turn on all your notifications so you never miss an emergency broadcast. Okay, transmission check complete. Let's get back to the radar. Now, what happens when you hit an unexpected structural block mid-paragraph? You're writing, and suddenly your brain freezes and you start losing altitude. You need a mid-air recovery protocol. That is where deploying a formatting template guides your sentence right back onto the glide slope. You must follow this step-by-step sequence perfectly. Establish the format first, layer in the terminology second, and evaluate the performance third. Think of it like the classic PEEL paragraph structure: point, evidence, explain, link. First, you apply the correct format by making a singular, clear point. Second, you use the appropriate Arabic terminology to introduce your specific evidence and explanation. Third, you evaluate the performance by linking that explanation back to the passage's overall effect. It's a mechanical sequence. If you skip a step, the structural integrity of your answer collapses and you drop marks. This exact protocol is absolutely crucial when the exam throws a comparative analysis question at you. When you're tasked with comparing texts or ideas, you can't just act like a copy machine listing random facts. You must explicitly identify both similarities and differences. And more importantly, you have to bridge them clearly using formal Arabic comparative connectives and hard supporting evidence from the text. I see candidates do this all the time. They spend 10 minutes brilliantly identifying all the similarities, but they completely forget to mention a single difference. When you do that, you leave your aircraft banking wildly and dangerously to one side. You need perfect aerodynamic balance. You must use robust Arabic comparative connectives to act as the steel struts holding your analysis together. You are showing the tower that you can confidently navigate the turbulent airspace between two contrasting ideas smoothly, safely, and professionally. Now entering Section 4, Top 3 Examiner Warnings. Let's look at the 3 most fatal mistakes pulled directly from the principal examiner reports. We are now initiating our interactive runway workshop. I want you tracking this with me. The first piece of massive debris on our runway is Fatal Error 1. The most classic, frustrating mistake candidates make is being entirely too vague. When examiners are literally begging for specific, highly detailed points. Let's say a student writes, "The writer uses good words to show a lot of emotion." Look at that sentence. That is a completely vague, useless holding pattern. Which words? What specific emotion? What is the actual linguistic mechanism triggering that emotion? You have to zoom your radar all the way in. The examiners want to see you extract the exact, specific Arabic phrase from the text, put it on the table, and dissect it like a surgeon. Always remember this rule in the tower. Vague answers only ever get vague marks. Scanning the runway for our second piece of debris, and there it is, Fatal Error 2. The second major warning from the tower is neglecting your format and presentation. Doing this immediately burns points that you could have effortlessly secured. For our workshop right now, I want you to imagine a 60-second visual timer ticking down on your screen. In those 60 seconds, an examiner is trying to isolate the primary trend in your answer. If your handwriting is completely illegible, if you've aggressively crossed out half a page and drawn messy, confusing arrows pointing everywhere, or if you completely ignored the designated answer space, you are creating massive, violent turbulence for the examiner. The quality of language mark explicitly includes the fluency and clarity of your own output. A messy presentation visually signals a chaotic, panicked thought process. Keep your runway clean, clear, and perfectly lit. And finally, the absolute ultimate red alert in the control tower. Fatal error 3. Providing generic answers instead of linking every single point back to the highly specific context of the given scenario. I want you to honestly think about a sample answer you recently wrote. Find the debris in your own work. Did you write a beautifully constructed, grammatically perfect sentence about an Arabic language rule that actually had absolutely nothing to do with the specific story happening in passage 1? If your written answer is so broad that it could be copy-pasted into literally any other exam paper and still vaguely make sense, then it is a generic answer, and you will drop points instantly. Every single observation you make must be deeply anchored to the specific context of the passage sitting in front of you. Initiating our final phase, Section 5, the perfect answer formula. Let's deconstruct and evaluate to build your ultimate exam day protocol. I want you to mentally picture this deconstruct, solve, and evaluate loop as a massive, powerful engine driving your answer forward. This is your final approach vector. Step 1. Deconstruct. You identify the given information in the text and break it down into logical, bite-sized steps. Do not swallow the whole text at once. Step 2. Solve. You systematically check your points for reasonableness. Ask yourself, does my analysis of this Arabic text actually make logical sense in the real world? Step 3. Evaluate. You make justified conclusions about the author's true intent based on the evidence you've gathered. When candidates finally stop acting like Ruder Alex, desperately rewriting the whole text, and instead smartly deconstruct it, and when they stop acting like Ruder Sam, rushing and panicking, and instead systematically evaluate it, that is when they execute a flawless, totally smooth, full-mark landing sequence. So, the most crucial component of this entire simulation is how you manage your resources under pressure. To manage your time properly during the actual exam, you must use this fuel-to-mark budget formula. Memorize this breakdown. You need to dedicate exactly 50% of your energy, your time, and your word count exclusively to specific context and hard evidence pulled directly from the passage. Then, you spend 25% of your fuel reserve on providing precise technical linguistic definitions. And the final 25% is spent establishing those critical causal relationships, explaining the why and the how the language works. If you strictly adhere to this fuel-to-mark budget, I promise you, you will never run out of time, you will never panic, and you will hit every single requirement on the examiner's grading rubric with absolute precision. The runway is clear. Remember the absolute non-negotiables. You must use specific details. You must rigorously check your format, and you must link absolutely every single point directly to the context of the passage. So my question to you is, how are you going to implement this deconstruct, solve, evaluate strategy in your very next practice session? Are you going to be a chaotic operator flying blind, or are you going to step up and be an elite exam tower director? Make sure you lock in this intel by subscribing to Ace the Exams at Ace the Exams. Enable that notification bell so you never miss a briefing, and I want you to drop a comment below right now telling me exactly which past paper gives you the absolute most anxiety. Let's tackle it together. Safe flying out there, and I will see you in the tower for the next explainer.